Rick Lineker here with another exciting adventure in HTML programming. Today we're going to be starting to use styles. Now in the last section we used some of the older tags such as font, and there was an older attribute that we used called BG color. While those are still supported today, they're recommended against. Instead, we're supposed to use styles, and the only reason I did that last week is because we hadn't learned styles yet, and those are really easy to put out there and let you use. But we need to actually get into the modern age and start using styles, and that's just what we're going to do today. So here I have a file already created called styles, and I'm going to open that guy up. You notice it's got my boilerplate code in there. And within the head tag, I'm going to go ahead and add a style tag. We need an attribute called type. And the type we're going to be using is text/CSS. Now before I do anything, I go ahead and close my style tag, because a lot of times people open a tag, such as I did right here, and then they forget to close it, and it completely hoses up your document. Okay, so what we're going to do is adjust the style of two common elements. The first common element we're going to adjust the style for is body. And this will be the style that the actual body of the HTML renders in. Body comes from this tag. Okay, so now this means we are going to adjust the style of that built-in HTML item. Okay, let's set its color. And we will set it to, let's say, magenta. Okay, and now let's set its background color to yellow. Okay, so when the body tag comes up, you will see its foreground color as magenta and its background color as yellow. Now we're going to adjust the style of another built-in HTML item, H1. And we'll set its color to red and its background color to cyan. Now, notice the format of these lines. There's always the attribute name, a colon, a value, and here we have named colors, but the value can be a lot of different things, followed by a semicolon. Okay, attribute name, colon, value, semicolon. Note that these style attribute and value pairs need to be followed up by a semicolon. However, you can get away with, on the last one, leaving off that semicolon. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. Notice we've set the color, foreground color, it's just called color, and background color for both of these items. Now we're going to come in here and put some HTML data in. We're going to say the cat in the hat. Close that bad boy. Remember to close it. Now we're going to have a paragraph tag here. I'm going to go ahead and close my paragraph before I forget to do that. And here I'm going to paste in some pre-copied text. Save this guy. Minimize him. And render. And you notice the H1 tag has a red foreground with a cyan background. The body has a yellow background with a magenta foreground. It's easy to change these things. All I have to do is change these values here. Okay, the magenta or the yellow, the red or the cyan, and the page will render differently. Let me change the background of H1 to white. Save it. Come back here. Render it. You notice the background of the H1 is white. Okay? Now, you can actually, there are quite a few named colors. These are named colors because they have names, obviously. And there are tons and tons of HTML pages or web pages out there that show you these. For instance, this has a bunch of them listed here, and it has their hex equivalents. And I think last week someone posted these values on the, or at least some of these values on the blog. So I encourage you when you're looking for HTML colors that you go out on the web and find really cool ones. But then there are also these hex values, 32CD32. Let's try that. Let's just put pound 32 CD32, and it's not case sensitive, but I prefer to have my letters in uppercase just because they're easier to read. Go ahead and render that, and it changes this to some sort of a greenish type color. You can also find quite a number of, let me see if I can find that. You can actually find things that make it easy to get HTML color codes by just clicking on a color that you like, and it gives you the number down there. There's one, here's another one. This is actually gives you finer gradation. So there are tons and tons of ways to do it. You can actually even use tools like Paint and say Paint Shop Pro and Photoshop to give you color codes. It's not rocket science to find out these color codes. So you can either use named color or you can use these hex equivalents. I prefer the named colors, that way when I look at my code I know what it means. However, you can't always find the color you need as a named color. Now the book has an explanation of these color codes, the hex color codes, and it would take actually quite some work for me to do that, and I think the book is really clear. Not that I'm afraid of course, doing the work I need to teach you, but in any case, the book has a really good explanation of this, so I don't think it's necessary for me to do that. Also, if you've had me for CIS 115, I mentioned it before, I taught that in class, so I'm going to let that go for right now. Just check the book. Now okay, so we've been adding styles directly into our HTML page, and that works okay, but eventually once you add enough style information into your HTML page, it gets really confusing, and it just tends to clutter up the page. And you might actually want to use those styles for another page too. The style changes might apply to your entire website. So what we do is we preferably will contain any kind of styles and style changes in a separate file known as a style sheet file, and those usually have an extension of .css, although it's not required, just recommended. So in the same folder I'm going to create a file called styles1.css. Okay, go ahead and open that. Now I'm going to go ahead and open our regular HTML page, and what we're going to do is we're going to copy the style information out of there into the style1.css file. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize it just for right now. So I no longer need this style information here. Get rid of that, but somehow your HTML page needs a way to reference the correct, get rid of that too, that was from a previous experiment. What we need to do is make sure that your HTML page knows where to get the style information and what style sheet to pull in. Okay? So inside of the head tag we're going to put something special. And let me give you a chance to see that and explain it. It's a link tag. So the tag name is link, and we put it inside of the head section. Here's the open head and the close head. And we say the rel attribute is going to tell the HTML renderer what kind of link this is. We let it know it's a style sheet. And as before, the type is text CSS. And here the href, we just tell it what the actual file is. Okay, and by the way, this indicates that we don't need a special close link tag that closes it for us. Okay? Now I save that, so there's no style information in this HTML page, but if I come out here and render this, I still get the same style information that I would have expected. So I am not sure what the book is going to ask you to do in the future, but I would appreciate all of your assignments and all of your efforts. Put everything into a style sheet and not directly put styles inside of your HTML file. That's it. That concludes my discussion on getting started with styles initially, and the next one will be about text, and that will come in a couple of days.